World Health Organization just declared this a global health emergency.
That this is an evolving situation. Literally every day we learn a little bit more about it.
In 1914, World War I caused European filmmaking to shut down, thus providing opportunity for Hollywood. But the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic forced an embargo on the release of new films and movie theaters shut down. By spring of 1919, when the pandemic dissipated, Hollywood's brightest stars founded United Artists to protect their works. Entrepreneurs were now exhibitors. The studios controlled theaters by instilling block booking, which forced the owners of those theaters into a block of 10 movies sight unseen. B-movies were lower-budget commercial films that played after the main feature. World War II was another great opportunity for Hollywood studios as audiences were searching for escapism. But in 1948, the United States government entered into a lawsuit, the U.S. versus Paramount Pictures. The suit pointed out violations of the Sherman Act, which accused the studios of monopolistic practice. The courts favored the government and decided that a company couldn't be a distributor and an exhibitor. After the Paramount decrees, the financial difficulties for studios forced them to make smaller films and thus slowed down production permanently. As a point of comparison, 338 films were released in 1948 and dropped. In 2000, 213 films were released. In 2019, 240. 65% of the population went to cinema in 1948. 1950 saw the dawn of a new era, as millions of Americans now had televisions in their homes. Hollywood's greatest creatives moved over to TV, with 4 major networks broadcasting primetime content 7 nights a week. Cinema reacted by creating wider screens through CinemaScope, noisier speakers, surround sound, and more exciting visual effects. They also created epic films such as Ben-Hur, Dr. Zhivago, and Lawrence of Arabia. But those films did little to prevent the decline in cinema attendance.
While the big, sweeping epics didn't help stem the decline in admissions, a new breed of edgy directors managed to revitalize the theatrical experience with the invention of the summer blockbuster.
45 years of summer blockbusters can all be traced back to a dreamer and his malfunctioning mechanical shark friend.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
At the same time, throughout the 90s and 2000s, international theatrical markets also grew in importance in this period, which was another revenue line that helped boost theatrical releases. However, back in the US, admissions peaked in 2004 and have been continually in decline since then. In the last 10 years, a combination of changing consumer tastes towards streaming, competition for consumer time by online video, social media, and other digital medium have made it even more difficult for studios and indie distributors to build audiences around theatrical releases. On the plus side, the opening up of the Chinese theatrical market in the last 10 years was a new, much-needed source of revenue when other channels were drying up.
China's growing appetite for the movies is helping to make up the difference. China is the world's most populous country. In the first quarter of 2018, it surpassed the US in box office revenue for the first time.
SVOD and streaming experienced the biggest growth in this period and absorbed most of the previous indie film volume, as well as becoming the home of genres no longer served by the studios. In the meantime, audiences kept falling and theatrical windows kept shortening. So even before COVID hit, theatrical distribution was at a crossroads.
On January 25, 2020, the Chinese New Year's Day, COVID-19 caused the box office to drop to only 1.84 million yuan compared to 1.394 billion yuan the same day last year. It sets a record of the lowest box office day in China in the whole century. Central Pictures Corporation, which is owned by China, provides 5 popular movies that have been shown in theaters previously in order to help the local cinemas. All of the income will go directly to the cinemas. From the beginning of this year to April, all the media corporations lost 18 to 35% of their stock value. 3 leading film studios in China risk being delisted from the stock market if they cannot turn loss into gain this year. By April, the pandemic caused at least a loss of $5 billion for the film industry all over the world, and this number will grow. Some production companies cannot afford to keep waiting, so they are releasing online through streaming media. For example, Lost in Russia, directed by and starring comedy superstar Zhu Zheng. Because of COVID-19, they entered into a cooperation agreement to release the film for free to audiences on ByteDance's new streaming service app. Under the deal, ByteDance will pay Huangxi a one-time fee of $90 million. This causes controversy that theaters will counteract the action. Even though the theaters announced that they will never distribute movies from those who break the rule, turning to streaming still can't be stopped, since it seems that it is the only current choice for studios. As of July 20th, most movie theaters in China have been allowed to reopen with strict conditions surrounding use of masks and no refreshments. This may be a major blow because selling food and drinks has been a long-time significant part of cinema revenue.
As other countries have been more effective to control the virus, the international theatrical marketplace is vital to industry's survival. Pre-COVID-19, Hollywood was in the middle of a major shift amid streaming wars, the narrowing theatrical window, and the Justice Department's order to repeal the Paramount decrees, all proving to only accelerate during the pandemic. In April 2020, under quarantine, a major disruption to the film distribution model occurred when the first studio bypassed the exclusive theatrical release window. Universal Pictures released Trolls World Tour directly to PVOD, generating $100 million in rental fees. In response, AMC Theaters announced a ban of all future Universal films. After months of feuding, Universal will be allowed to release movies to streaming after only 17 days in theaters, as AMC makes a historical cut to their window. In return, they will receive a portion of the studio's on-demand sales, establishing a new profit-sharing model and many questions for the future of exhibitors. On August 7, 2020, the court ruled in favor of the Justice Department's reversal of the 1948 Paramount decree. Studios could revive block booking practices and may also enter the movie theater business, perhaps merge with large national chains. Currently, Disney owns El Capitan Hollywood, exclusively showing its movies. If Disney builds or purchases theaters and transforms them into entertainment centers, moviegoers could only have the option of seeing a new release of Disney films in Disney-owned theaters. The uncertainty of the pandemic has compelled studios to experiment with movie releases on digital platforms. Post-COVID, theatrical distribution is believed to remain resilient. As one studio executive put it, the theatrical experience continues to be the cornerstone of our business.